Our theme this month is spiritual community. And the topic this morning is Circle of Friends. Last week I closed the talk on our spiritual family by saying that though we are each individuals and unique, we do not operate in isolation on this good planet Earth. The actions that each of us take and the work that each of us does not only represents the individual creativity within us, but it represents what we yearn to express, not just for our own purpose, but for the greater good. It also has meaning and purpose in the universal continuum. It's how we contribute to the whole. It's that whole of which we are an integral part. We're never separated from it. Sometimes these talks probably seem like a TV soap opera, don't they? Each week they start where the last one ended. And though I've never thought of them quite that way before, as I was writing this when that occurred to me, it is true in the sense that there is a theme that repeats itself throughout the month, that builds on itself throughout the month, and in the case of these talks, serves to strengthen the message in an ever-expanding way. The good news is, though, that like changing the channel, you get a new theme every month. So the objective here is to encourage you to stay on the same channel all month without getting bored. So one of the most fulfilling parts of being your minister here at Center for Spiritual Living West Hawaii is seeing the friendships and the caring that have manifested here in our center. Most of you who are now active on Sunday in classes, at midweek gatherings, participating in our prayer partnering program, most of you didn't know each other before you started coming here. Yet, without any prompting or cajoling, if you will, you've expanded your circle of friends here. Just like we sang about last Sunday in the song following the talk, our circle of friends is growing. And we'll sing that again this morning after this talk. And when we do, pay special attention to the words in that song. Our circle of friends is growing, bringing joy beyond compare. Our hearts ring with your laughter. All your special gifts we share. And we do share, not just with each other in this room, but also when you bring your friends, your neighbors, people who are visiting you, those you associate with in other activities, people who you choose to share your spiritual community with. We don't do that to change them. Only they can do that. But to share with them our own joy, our own love, our own caring, as individuals and as a spiritual community. It's a form of being in service, you know. Without any pressure on you or on those you serve to do or be anything or anybody else other than who each of you is in the now moment. So what does that mean then, to be in service? There's so many elements of that concept, and particularly when we talk about spiritual community. Being of service is an integral part of the journey toward finding fulfillment in our own lives. Think of a time when you participated in making somebody else's life better. Perhaps when you shared something with a friend or a loved one that sparked their interest. When you held someone through their tears all the way to smiles. When you provided the support that helped someone through a tough time. When you participated in providing a service that helped better other people's lives. Although most people focus on getting love, fulfillment occurs from giving love. The loving behavior that naturally flows from an open heart makes any activity an opportunity to be in service. Many activities begin with loving behavior as an integral part, but being of service often becomes lost as other priorities supersede the behavior that would make the activity fulfilling. When our hearts are closed, we feel that getting someone else to do what we want becomes more important than meeting their needs. When our hearts are closed, we feel that getting someone else to do, getting someone else to do what we want becomes more important than meeting their needs. I said that twice. Must have been really important. When our hearts are closed, we feel that making our point becomes more important than hearing someone else's. When our hearts are closed, we feel that maintaining power becomes more important than empowering others. When our hearts are closed, we feel that winning takes precedence over self-esteem. So an openness to learning about being of service begins with a most illuminating journey. And that journey starts with 3 basic questions. What does it mean to be of service to yourself? What does it mean to be of service to others? And what does it mean to be of service to others and not lose yourself in the process? Here's Albert Schweitzer's take on that. Every person has to seek in his or her own way to make themselves more noble and to realize their own true worth. We must give some time to our fellow humans. Even if it's a little thing to do something for someone else. Something for which you get no pay, but you have the privilege of doing it. After all, we don't live in this world alone. And as I read that, 2 things popped into my mind. The first one was the Hawaiian word kuleana. That it's a privilege and a responsibility. And the second thing that popped into my mind was that what I have to give is what's already within me. So first, the love that I open up to within me. The respect for others that I open up to from within me requires that I have respect for myself first in order to even know what respect is to give. To even know what love is, to love oneself enough to be able to give that to someone else. I must live it in order to know it, in order to give it. So the moment we make ourselves available as avenues for the outflow of divine love, from that moment on, we begin serving each other. It doesn't require self-justification. It doesn't require self-righteousness or self-glorification in the performance of any kind of service. When we realize that what we're giving is not ours anyway, to begin with, but rather the gifts we have been given in grace by Divine Spirit. When we realize that we are opened up to give freely and to recognize we can never outgive God anyway. As much as you open up to give, that much more is supplied to you. The universe abhors a vacuum. And as you begin to give of those things that you recognize in yourself as love and respect and privilege to serve, that much more flows into you because it's all flowing through you anyway. As solid as you think you are, and some of us think we're more solid than others, as solid as you think you are a vessel with an inlet and an outlet. So just as that very process unfolds in the functioning of your body, from input to output, so too is that of love and caring and sharing and recognizing those qualities in others. So to give of ourselves in service does not deplete our time, it doesn't deplete our energy, it doesn't deplete our strength. We're simply expressing God's love, which is endless. And I would say to you as a kind of a footnote to that, if it is depleting your time and your energy and your strength, time to do some inner work. Because that would suggest that I am not as open a vessel to receive as I thought I was. And that's true of a lot of us. That's not a condemnation, it's a realization that I am more trained or more likely to give than to receive. And yet that universal law of circulation requires that I must be willing to receive as much as I'm willing to give. So the more you feel yourself willing to give, the more mindful of receiving, because you're worth it. So being willing to be in service translates to doing what we do well and successfully. It means we've overcome those inner resistances and we're committed to fully participate in life, in giving and receiving. Here's another exciting element of being in service. We are never demeaned by the service we provide, whatever it is, regardless of its detail. And that's because our self-esteem has been lifted. Our self-worth is intact. And that's being reinforced by the positive feedback of our peers and our colleagues. But the recognition is never a requirement. In fact, some people who are in selfless service aren't even aware of those accolades. And I'm sure you can think of some people you know who operate in very high levels of circulation and givingness, who it isn't that they refuse the accolades, it's that they don't need them. They don't give for that reason. They give for the joy of giving, knowing that they are always being replenished. So willingness in service shows up as a responsiveness to others and a genuine joy at being able to do so. Everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb in a sentence match in order to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. And a recognition of how magnificent you really are. And if you need some coaching in that, just think about that creative energy that is constantly ongoing and what it provides around you, all around you, from the plant or the person in front of you to the furthest reaches of the cosmos. So here's this morning's story for you. You know I love to tell stories. A Thanksgiving Day editorial in a major newspaper told of a school teacher who asked her class of first graders to draw a picture of something they were thankful for. She thought of how little these children from poor neighborhoods actually had, and certainly how little they really had to be thankful for. But she knew that most of them would draw pictures of the turkey or the table with food on it. So she was quite taken aback with a picture that one little boy named Douglas handed in. It was simply a childish drawn hand. But whose hand, she wondered. And the class, his classmates were captivated by this abstract image, which for 6-year-olds was, it was a stretch. So one little child said, "Oh, I think it must be the hand of God that brings the food." And another one said, "No, I think it's the farmer because the farmer grows the turkeys." And Douglas just sat there. He offered no explanation. He was silent. So finally, when the other children were working on another assignment, the teacher went over to his desk and she bent over and she said to Douglas, "Whose hand was that you drew?" And he said, "It was your hand. It was your hand." And that simple response caused her to recall that frequently at recess, she had taken Douglas' hand. He was a scruffy, forlorn-looking little child, and she would simply take him by the hand. In fact, the more she thought about it, she often did that with individual children for individual reasons. But to Douglas, that had meant so much to him that she took his hand. Perhaps, she thought, that was his Thanksgiving. Not the material things that are given to us, but the chance, in whatever seemingly small way, to give to others, to be in service. How often something like that can touch us, any of us, by its kindness. Well, as always, we know that any thought, any action, begins in and with ourselves. Then we can begin to expand that into close and safe actions. So many of you have already realized that the place to start is right here in our own hearts, in this room, in these people we call friends, in this philosophy, with the activities that expand this circle of friends. It's a safe place. When we do standing in the light each Sunday morning, we do that without hesitation because we know this is a safe place to share. And this is a place here and in class and in our midweek gatherings that honors each of you for exactly who you are in this very moment and what you bring. So I want to close this morning with this following statement, which is one we've heard many times, and with good measure. First, because it has been attributed to at least 3 different authors, and second, because it brings such a powerful message that maybe it took 3 to put it together. I shall not pass this way but once. If therefore there be any kindness I can show, or any good thing I can do to any fellow being, let me do it now, and not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. Reaching out in service to expand our circle of friends. And so it is.